Welcome. Nope, still going live, still going live. We are live on my personal page. And I have not done a live on my personal page in a long time. And I'm doing something really fun and really impromptu. I have this incredible mastermind client. And in our work together, she keeps talking about her work. And I'm like, I got to get some of it. And when I was going to do a session, I was like, I really don't understand what you do. And she's like, I have that sometimes. So I said, let's go live with the session. And then I'll get this amazing reading and share a little bit about what you do. And you'll get more people interested, because I do feel like a lot of people in my circles do understand and appreciate astrology, but they don't know how to use it appropriately. And even me, I do not like anything prescriptive. I don't want anyone to tell me what's going to happen, or I want like a partner to help me think through things. And I've used it a time, and you are the perfect person. So welcome, Patricia from the Netherlands, joining us from Europe today. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and like how you got into this?
Yeah, of course. Many years ago, when I was living in Thailand, I have a Thai husband. I met him while I was traveling.
Yeah, her kids look like my kids a little bit.
Sorry?
I said, your kids look like my kids a little bit. You
got
the Thai, I got the Filipino. Yeah.
They look actually very Dutch. Like one
they
of the
do? I feel like your daughter looks like mine.
She does a little. My son is very Dutch though.
Mine didn't get any of my looks for some reason. My husband's genes just took over.
Well, for us, it's like a little bit from our side, like the Dutch are stronger, but
right.
What the third one's going to be. But that's where I actually had my first astrology reading with an amazing astrologer. And I was like, you don't know me. And you just tell everything about me, every tendency, every characteristic about me in 1 hour. And I've never met you before. So I was like flabbergasted by how she was able to pinpoint things in my life. And still up to today, I sometimes think back about that session. I think she was so right. Like, how is it even? Now I know how it's possible. But at that time, I was like, what is this? So that got me hooked completely. And that's when I started studying astrology. And over the years, I developed my own methods. And over the last few years, I really focused on helping business owners, especially female entrepreneurs, on how to really unlock their talents within their chart and planning and scheduling their time. So they have, like, when they sit down, they can just do what needs to be done, know when things need to be done, and just have so much more flow in their life and business.
It's so key. And everyone I know at like a high level, whether that's like a high financial level or a bigger team or whatever, they have so many dynamic pieces. Every single one of them has multiple levels of support in terms of planning. Because what's that saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Whatever it is, fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yeah, there we go. I did say it right. Because it comes down to when you have multiple projects, multiple team members, multiple businesses, sometimes you do need to have that super clear vision and timeline for things. Of course, things move around and flow, but it's really difficult sometimes to just pick numbers or times or dates out of thin air. And I do like the idea of looking at like energies in the world and assessing for how that sits with my own life. And then having a partner essentially to run through all of these ways that you could line up the things that matter most to you. I mean, a lot of times the value that I found in sessions like this is that it's also really helpful to lay out all of your priorities clearly. So you're not just putting things on the back burner that really matter to you, which can happen so easily, right? Like you put this big project front and center, and then everything else just falls to pieces. That doesn't feel great. No. So I'm really excited. So what we're doing, which I'm a little nervous about, is Patricia's going to literally read me, right? Like we're doing a live session, or at least a portion of a live session. So you guys get to see what she does, and I get to get a session and really dive deep into the next few months and what's coming up. And I have a lot of things going on. So walk us through what we'll be doing, and let's get started.
Of course. So first, let me just share your natal chart quickly. I hope you can all see this.
I can see it.
So this is what a natal chart looks like. This is basically a snapshot of the sky of the moment you were born. So the place, the time, and the date of birth. And that creates this unique pattern. Now, I'm not going to go into the details too much, and I'm going to stop sharing because I think it distracts a little bit too much. Right. So what you need to know is that your birth chart is divided in 12 areas, and each area we call a house, and each house stands for a different field of life experience. So where these planets are located is very important to know what areas of your life are highlighted. Now, when I looked at your chart, you're actually born a little bit before a new moon, before the Capricorn new moon. So your sun and your moon sign are in Capricorn. Now, what that means is Capricorn is the sign that is committed, determined, like working hard, is like really steady fast. Like if you set your mind on something, that is going to happen, which is a really, really good thing to have. But also there's a little bit your pitfall where you're so focused that when something happens over here, which is actually more important and is maybe even better to turn your direction, but you've set that's the course that I'm going, but maybe there's something more interesting on that side. Is that something that you've experienced?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm like, when I want something, I just go for it. And it's one of the reasons I was so attracted to doing some of the shadow work and really understanding flow and movement of energy, because I had to kind of train myself a little bit to allow everything on the periphery to also be in my awareness and to be a form of guidance and realignment, like learning to flow. Well, I'm such a good teacher of it because it does not necessarily come very naturally to me. You know, I like to just uber focus but yeah, it's everything that we don't have, we can develop, right? That's the whole point, is to learn, like, this is my propensity. The thing that I always kind of struggled with Capricorn, which is true, like the negative part of that sign is that you're supposed to be very stubborn and strong-willed, which I am 100%. But where it was very, I feel like, again, when I didn't have all my wounding and all my stuff really resolved, I was very opinionated, and maybe people felt I was really rigid, more rigid than when I was inside. I'm actually really open-minded and really, but the way that I would kind of position myself. So that's something that I've worked within my sign, to be like, I don't want to be opinionated. Like, I'm just always going to be this way. There is no always. I'm growing. I'm learning. I want to be more open to new things and a beginner's mind and everything. It's like an active practice for me, because I can get very much into like, this is the way it is. Let me tell you.
That's really great awareness, because a lot of people get stuck in, sometimes we call it the lower side. So it's not necessarily a negative side, but it's the lower side of the sign, because there's no good or bad or negative or positive. But because you have your sun sign, which is your ego, and your moon, which is your sensitive sign, your emotions, and a lot of people who have their moon sign in Capricorn are being seen as rigid and almost like you're not in contact with your emotions, which is not true. It is that it's not shown that easily. Like if you have like an Aries moon, they're like very fiery and they just let out whatever they feel and whatever they want, and it's like this waterfall.
I want to add this. Those of you guys watching, put down if you know your sun sign and your moon sign, because I knew it, but I can never remember my moon sign. Now I'm going to remember that my moon sign is also Capricorn. That's easy to remember. Do you know this? Do you know, are you into astrology? Like, as you're watching this, do you know your sun sign, moon sign? Did you know that one is more like your outer, one is more your inner, I guess? Or how did you describe it?
Yeah, your sun is your ego, but like in a positive way, the way we interact with others, whereas your sun or your moon sign is more your emotions, more your feminine side. Obviously, we need all of those, but it's also interesting how they react together. But in your case, your ego and your emotions are very much in like a marriage together. They get it. I mean, sometimes they kind of don't get along, but overall, there's less conflict between your mind and your heart.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, really. I'll take all the good stuff.
Well, one thing that I also want to mention, which is very interesting, because you don't know the exact time of birth. Now, to make like a very specific chart, we need the exact time, because the houses change, but also your rising sign changes. Now, you told me it was 3 o'clock at 3 a.m., and that lands you in Libra rising. But I flipped it a few minutes further, and then you end up in Scorpio rising. Now, Libra is all about the scales. It's all about finding balance. It's very, it's much more softer. It's a gentle type of energy, where Scorpio is all about deep, deep transformation. It's a water sign. That's why I think it's interesting. At the beginning, you mentioned that your emotions, like people perceived you as rigid, but you didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
Libra would try to make it more airy and fun and a little more fluffed up, so to say, whereas Scorpio's like, I'm just going to go deep down into the darkness, the shadow work, the really deep transformation. So when you mentioned, I was like, I'm going to play around with the times a little bit to see
because I didn't know. So my mom was in a communist hospital. She was trying to give, she was so dilated, and they didn't have a doctor on staff, and they kept telling her, wait till the morning, literally hold the baby in. So finally she ended up just exploding with me, essentially. But there were no clocks. So she doesn't know. She's like, it was in the night, deep into the night. I'm guessing 3 a.m. Yeah. So that's great. That definitely resonates with me. And now I have a lot of questions, because I dated someone who was a Scorpio, and it was a very interesting dynamic for us. So I'm like, I wonder if that played off of, each other.
Scorpio is, for the people who don't know Scorpio, it is very intense, intense in a way where you don't care about small talk and just talking a little bit. No, it's going down to what it is about. Scorpio, especially Scorpio rising, they can sense.
Do we have any Scorpios in the house here? Let me know.
Yeah, Scorpio can sense this type of underlying pressure, which maybe even the other person doesn't even sense yet, but you have the ability to sense it in other people, which is very, it can be very confrontating for others who haven't even admitted.
You're pretty much describing me. So we are right on point. And it's so obvious to me, you know, so it's very loud. Like, I will say people's bodies talk to me, or their emotions. It's very clear.
But that's intense for other people.
Yeah.
And when other people, they find their own boundaries, they find their own resistance, and then you call them out, and it's like, I didn't know I had that.
You've experienced some of that firsthand.
Oh, not at all.
But that's what people come to me for, essentially. Yeah. They're like, hey, I know there's something I'm not seeing. That is my gift. I'm like, oh, this is what you're not seeing, and this is how it relates, and these are the solutions, right? And it brings it all to the surface. Somebody who's not ready for that, that's not a pleasant experience. Somebody who's been asking for it, it's like water to a thirsty person. They're like, oh, this finally makes sense. I see, right? Yeah.
And it's also interesting because there's a combination between Scorpio is a water sign, whereas Capricorn is an earth sign. So you have more flow. So that what you were describing earlier, going with the flow, makes a lot of sense coming from that Scorpio type of energy. Now, and then when I look at the ruling planet of Scorpio, which is Pluto, and Pluto is in your 12th house, which is about spiritual development. Oh. So the way that you express your rising sign is mostly through your personal spiritual development that then gets translated to other people. But first, it's this inner spiritual journey that you have to take in order for you to guide other people in that.
Wow. Okay, cool. That all checks off.
Yes. And I also noticed it was interesting to see that your sun and your moon is in your 3rd house. And your 3rd house is a lot about learning and teaching in a practical way. So not necessarily about making it really difficult and making a universal, a deep study from it. But this is making things practical. I'm looking at your book right now. So this is exactly on point.
No, it's totally, it's so clear to me, so clear that I'm not here to wax philosophical and say a bunch of beautiful things. What is this going to get someone?
Right.
What's the result? What's the impact? Feet on the ground. Let's actually see the change, right? It's great if you feel better. Now, does your life reflect it?
Yeah. And what I also saw is interesting, there was a square going on between Saturn and Jupiter with your sun and moon. Now, I'm not going to go into details. A square is just something hard. That's a harder aspect. And every single horoscope and every chart has harder and softer aspects. Now, we like the softer aspects in general, like people think that's good, that's better. But if you have the harder aspects, that is growth. That is deeper transformation. And Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and is also like the bearer of karma, who just like puts it in your face. This is what it's like. If you're not doing anything about it, I'm just going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. And if you don't do anything, I'm only going to make it worse. How we perceive it, like it's not getting worse, but we perceive it as getting worse. So this is like something that will probably continue in your life, because this is in your fixed scope.
Again, why I had to learn all of this alignment, personal growth, all of these like tools for being really aware of my own patterns, because it will get worse so quickly, so intensely for me. I just feel like, again, I just drive 100 miles an hour. So any little bump or any little veer for me is more detrimental. It makes me more needing to drive better, essentially, because it will just happen so much quicker. That a lot of people, they can just stretch it out and it's not as intense for them. And I feel it so intensely. So I'm just not willing to be out of alignment, essentially, for very long. It's like whatever needs to adjust, I need to make a big hard pivot. This needs to change. This needs to adjust. I'm just going to do it because I know where this is heading, and I am not down with the continuation of this. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you said I had to, because in the end, what I see in your chart, everything is free will. Yeah. Like you have the choice to either, because what Capricorn tends to do on the lower side is just throw themselves into work.
Right.
And numb themselves out. I mean, you have the awareness, and that is also because of your Scorpio placement and Pluto in the 12th house. But some people choose to not follow that and to go into a different path by numbing out. Whereas for you, it feels normal. Other people, they might be like, oh no, I don't want to see this. I don't like,
right.
It's
overwhelming.
Or one client who said, I just can't, I can't look at it. And you have to make that choice yourself. You have to be able to step into that and go into that transformation. And I've helped so many clients through the transformation, but you have to take the first step and say, I am willing to do that.
Right. Well, and I bet the clients you work best with are the ones that are so curious and they want the shift. Yes. Otherwise, you can't make anyone change, right? Ultimately, it's like, here's all the information. I'll offer all of the support, but it's up to you to make those shifts.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And let's go into the juicy stuff.
Yeah, let's get into the juicy stuff. I'm a little nervous.
What I just did is
you guys watching, can someone leave a comment? Because I'm not seeing comments on this side of it. And I'm wondering if I'm just missing your comments. Let me see if I can pull it up. There we go. Can you guys say hello and join? So I'm getting my personal reading. We just did like a general overview, which was really great and reminded me of a lot of things that I learned a long time ago and didn't remember my rising sign and all of that. And now Patricia's going to move into the juicy stuff and then the month ahead. So someone say hello to, I don't think I can see your comments. Maybe they'll all show up later, but comment along with us. And if you have any questions for Patricia, then let us know and we'll go. Oh, okay. I see a comment. Any tips for me on my journey? Possibly if you tell us what do you need to know? Their sign, if they know their sign and their rising sign.
Hypothetical astrology is a little bit challenging, but if you can tell me your sun, your moon, and your rising, that gives me a little bit of better understanding.
Sun, moon, rising, if you know, or if you don't know, maybe you want to find out how. Yes. All right, so let's go into the juicy stuff.
So what happens is, so this part is fixed, and now we're going to look at, I put like the chart of the current situation on top of your personal natal chart, and that changes all the time because planets are always moving. And one thing that I really want to go into, which is related to where we are in at the moment, which is Corona and what is happening astrologically, because we could see something was going to happen. I'm not going to say like I could predict that there was a virus coming, but we knew some deep transformations were going to happen because there were certain alignments of planets. Now there is the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, which is happening 3 times this year, happened at the beginning of this month, the end of June, at the beginning of November. Now, what happens every time when 2 planets come together, they enhance each other. And you have a lot of Pluto in your chart because Pluto is a ruling planet of Scorpio. So Pluto is deep, deep transformation. It's just burning everything to the ground so that we have like fertile soil so we can start growing again. So we're in the middle of that burning phase. We're in the middle of taking everything away that we thought was stable and good and comfortable. And because Jupiter is with the conjunction, it enhances everything. So this transformation is like really, really big and massive. Also happens in Capricorn, by the way. So it hits you on your sun and your moon sign as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So the reason why I want to point this out, because everybody experiences this crisis differently, which just obviously makes sense, but we can also translate it back to our natal chart. So for you, these conjunctions are happening in your third house, which is again about learning, about growing. So for you, this might be a phase where you are burning things down, like really getting focused on what it is that I need specifically. Yeah. How can I learn? And then when I've learned my lesson, how can I share that with others? So the reason why we have 3 conjunctions is because all of the planets are stationing retrograde, so they're turning backwards. So right now we're at the end of a cycle. We're like burning it down. We're getting closure, or this is actually an invitation.
Oh my God, this is so like, I literally just finished, this whole weekend was processing a bunch of closures. There was some friendship closures, or I don't even know if they're closures as much as like really feeling that the things that were are no longer, and really accepting and embracing that. I had a program that I ran for many years, and I knew that I was going to, it had already ended, but we had the Facebook group open, and I knew I was going to archive that group. Well, we archived the case study group that I was running, starting the new program, and then an old program that I had for a long time. Like the last step was actually just the Facebook group that's been around for many, many years. And I just knew it had to happen last week. And then I processed all the emotions around it, the gratitude, the grief, the nostalgia, all of the emotions, the happiness, the joy. So you're right on point. Like I literally spent this weekend, my husband knows, my kids know, because I talked to him, I'm like, this is the cycle. There's an ending that is happening, and now there's a beginning that I'm feeling, but you can't skip over those. That's the tricky part. Right? People just want to move right on through all of the difficult emotions, but you really got to honor them. Like there's real juice and value there. Like I needed to feel the what was, and celebrate and appreciate, and then to grieve that it's no longer, that things are different. I mean, the world is going through that in a really big sense, and then personally, yeah,
and that's like the invitation to every one of us to go through that personal cycle where we are letting go, where we allowing ourselves to be in that space. So then when this conjunction happens again in the end of June, that's the integration part. So how can we integrate that part of that ending of cycles?
I already know what's going to be happening for me at the end of June, because we're moving in the beginning of June, and I already know my own patterns. It takes me a couple of weeks usually to get into, even though this place is like a total upgrade and it's like this miraculous manifestation, the excitement of it is great. And then you start settling in, you're like, everything is different. You're not used to where things were. We do need to like furnish it. And like the excitement kind of settles, and now the real like work shows up, and it's like, oh man, like, that's great. That's great. I'm happy. And now I got to like actually go and get the office set up and get the closet all like to function well for the time ahead. So I can see how that would totally work.
And it also happens in your third house, which is again related to that learning phase. So for some other people, it might show up in their relationship. For other people, it might show up in their business more. But for you, it's much more about your internal journey and about that learning. And then when you have learned that lesson, then you can put it out into the world. So when Pluto and Jupiter are meeting again in November, for you, it's going to be probably a much lighter type of energy. We're like, okay, I get this. I learned my lesson, because you have taken the time to integrate it.
Yeah. And it's
that
really
is like the
nice to hear you say this, because even though I know this, like working with you is going to make me put it in my calendar and make it more deliberate. Like I know I'm going to need time after the move. I know what's happening in November as well. It's going to be most likely the release of my audiobook. It's the cycle of the book kind of coming to like there's we released the Kindle bestseller, very exciting, right? Then there is the in the summer there'll be the print book, again, more excitement, more bestseller, more this, more interviews, more this. And then in November it's the last release of this part of the journey with the book, right? So again, to schedule that in, like it's making me think like I really do want to add it in as an awareness so it doesn't catch me by surprise. I actually plan for it. That's going to smooth out my journey so much. Tell my team, like everything.
Yeah. And that's the biggest part of what I do is I'm not telling you completely new things. You already know all of this. But what is unique is that you know when it's going to happen. So instead of being overwhelmed by, I do not have time for like this ending of cycles and things are going on and I've not scheduled it and I'm not ready for any closure. Instead of that, you actually have more compassion towards yourself and more compassion to what is happening around you so you can accept it, move through it, and then you're much more in this flow. Like nothing is really a surprise. Like one of my clients said the other day, it's like a confirmation of my intuition. I know this, but I'm not going to just say yes by myself or say no to some things.
Right. Well, you need to discuss it and process it. And it's really helpful to have somebody who's getting it from like almost their own like perspective that I didn't tell you any of this. Like, it's a great confirmation, like you said, and there's a lot of value in then making it obvious and real, like on your calendar with your plans, with all of it. Like I'm going to get off and I'm going to tell my husband, okay, we need to plan for June. Cause I kind of told him like, okay, we'll see how the summer goes. So like no travel plans anyway, but even like little weekend stuff, like I know I'm gonna need to tell him in June I need weekends clear. My husband's very like, let's go here, let's go around the island, let's go. I know already to plan for that will be easier than me waking up on Saturday morning and going through this whole thing that I've done sometimes. I can't go today. I don't want to go today. I need time to integrate and process. And he's like, oh, but we've planned it. Instead, to be compassionate for myself and to ahead of time prepare is huge. So like, I think the value of this is to understand yourself is everything.
Well, it's good that you mentioned your husband. I won't go into details because we will save that for later. But every time when there's a new moon, it also falls in a different house. So in a different field of your life. So the new moon we had in Taurus on April 22nd falls in your relationship house, which is your romantic relationship as well as business relationships. Now, I won't go into details because we're live here for the public, but it will hit you in that area, which is really good for setting intentions around that. So,
oh, good. Okay, I'm excited to hear that. Okay, very good.
Let me see, because there's so much going on. I want to focus also what is happening in your business. So I'm just looking at my notes quickly. Because what is happening in your business also translates, of course, to your life. Now, what I always look for is what Mercury is doing. Mercury stays in the same house about every 2.5 weeks. So there are kind of these ebbs and flows that you go through in your business and in the way that you communicate, because Mercury stands for communication. So Mercury is going to move tomorrow into your 8th house. 8th house is a little bit less about outward energy, a bit less about expression, and more about the inward journey. What we've been talking about, the darkness, the mining for the gold, which happens in the mines, in the darkness. It's not like out in the bright open. So the next 2.5 weeks are a little bit more about exploring the hidden parts in yourself. And then it will translate later into the business. But right now, this is more about your own translation.
So are you saying, like, for example, translation for me, like I did the masterclass last week, like don't do any super big interviews live. Like that's what I'm hearing. Yeah, like this is not the time to, schedule.
Your shadows might pop up all of a sudden and you'd be like, oh.
So when is a good time? After 2.5 weeks? This is really good to know. I'm literally about to schedule a bunch of interviews.
Well, around May 16th, is better, because then you're much more in the outward energy. It's much more fiery. It's also about more of an exploration, like an outward exploration. So you'll be able to formulate much better what you think, what you've been studying. It will come out easier. And let's not say like when you do it before that, it's going to
Right, 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 right.
But you might, after the interview, be like,
I'm taking notes here. This is
go
really good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I love this. It's actually really helping me. I mean, I can tell you more privately later, but this is really helping me plan. So I have obviously the book launch. Now there's a lot of promo that's going to be happening. And I have been kind of delaying getting back on a bunch of podcasts and things. And now I'm going to be scheduling it. But meanwhile, there's a lot of internal things that I want to really line up, and sort of, there was a big push and now I want to kind of like lay low. And so this is just really helping me. All these things I want to do them, but now I can schedule them in a time that I feel will really have a nice flow, and not like kind of in my mind, I was like, no, I got to schedule interviews as soon as possible. But now I'm realizing why, like, give it that space.
Wait until like the mid of May, where you feel then the expansive energy starts to come more, where it's easier for you to get into relating better to others. And it's not that the 8th house, you won't relate to others as well, but it's much more about your inner journey. So when you are on podcasts, it's much easier to talk. And because you have explored the depth first, you've done the work. And then when you be in the public eye, it's much easier for you to talk about it.
Yeah. And I love that, because obviously you'd be telling every person who's doing this kind of clarity session a different thing, because it's in their different house and it's different for them. Right. So got it.
Yeah. I just had a client who I said, go full on into visibility.
Right. Different things happening for different. Okay. That's really good. What else do you got?
Let me see. Your communication is also getting like a major up level if you allow the transformation. So that Pluto Jupiter conjunction I was talking about, they're conjunct to your Mercury. That means that communication, again, it's a choice. There will first be this friction going on where your communication is not going as smooth as you hoped. The way that you present yourself, maybe the way that you speak up and speak out. But you have to allow this process to happen for you to see what doesn't work, so that you can step into the communication style that really is aligned with you. But that has to go through this uncomfortable phase. So that's like the 3 parts, a conjunction that is happening with your Mercury, is that it's really up leveling your way of communication, but you have to allow it to go through that transformation of death.
When is this happening for me?
So these are the 3 conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto, which is the 4th of April, we had one, 30th of July, and the 12th of November.
Oh, okay, July.
But these are slow moving planets, so it's not exactly the date. It's not like a new moon, because moons, they travel, the moon travels much faster, whereas Pluto is the slowest moving planet. So this is stretched out over a few weeks. Okay. So it's not like, oh, on April 4th, I felt exactly this, or on June 30th, like that day, it's going to be, no. It's going to be much more stretched out. It's much more a subtle energy, but you definitely feel it.
So like, if I wanted to ask you, like, what's kind of the energy for this month? What should be the focus for this month? Is that something you would do? Like, for example, May is, I know you said like visibility, for example. May is visibility. June is for building internal systems. I don't know. I'm just like making stuff up. Or, July is for, take a vacation then, or whatever. I don't know. Like, is that something that you also look at?
Each month, well, a few weeks, doesn't go accordingly to the exact calendar months, but I can tell you for a few weeks, the energy that is happening. And sometimes it's very introspective. Other times it's full on visibility, like do promotions, launch new things. For some people, like, I don't know if you know Mercury retrograde, when Mercury goes backwards, it's usually a good time to launch. I had clients who had major successes because for them, it was aligned to launch at that moment.
I love that you say that, because when people make these blanket statements, I'm like, whoa. This isn't the absolute truth for everyone. Like Mercury retrograde, all of your systems are going to break. I'm like, really? Really, you really
a lot do break. Like there is like some extra caution that you have to
right.
take,
but like it's not going to be bad for everyone, because this is the energy of the statement. Okay, so I'm going to be planning out if I don't go with a major publisher, which actually maybe that's a good question. They wouldn't have my book out till May 2021, my print book. Is that, can you look that far ahead? That's like a year. I just intuitively feel like this is not a good date for me. For me personally, a year long and May 2020. I just know it is not right for me. And so I'm going to self-publish and then get a distribution deal after. I've reversed the plan of what I will be doing, because I intuitively feel a good time for me to have the print book is somewhere in August timeframe. I was thinking July, but probably August. And then towards the end of the year with the audiobook. So they're spaced apart because each one needs a lot of work. So what do you have to, how can you look at that, when to release? These are big releases for me. Yeah.
Well, I was looking at, so in September, we have Mars in retrograde, and that is going to be an intense retrograde because Mars is about action, about power, about drive. And when that planet turns retrograde, which doesn't happen that often, it's not really a good time because the energy can feel quite stagnant. It's not like this power action is like, doesn't want to. So then it can turn into aggression. It can turn into jealousy, into arrogance. So September, definitely that's like, would be a good time. Then in like mid of May, we have Venus going into retrograde. So June also is like things don't move as fast. It's a little bit more stuck. Whereas July and August, that opens up a little bit more before we are kind of in this whole year is a lot about expansion, contraction.
Yeah.
And we're now a little bit in the expansive phase, but still within the contraction bubble. And then, so I would say like July, August is better. June still feels like the energy is not really moving that fast. And then in November, we have this surge again of energy starting to go.
So would I be able to specifically ask you, like, if I could choose a date, which honestly probably I won't be totally in my choice because I'm working with a company to do all the publishing. But like, let's say I could choose a date. Would you sit down and actually say it's better on August 10th versus August 15th or whatever? Wow, that's so cool.
Mostly go into weeks because because I don't feel like it should be like this exact date.
Okay.
And the reason why I do that is because I want to look at how your energy is. I want to know, like, if you're in this expansive phase or in this contraction. Are you very outward going or inwards? Because if you then sit down to do the launch, it is much easier for you because your energy is in alignment with your energy in your chart.
Yeah.
So the thing that I cannot predict is whether it be a huge success or not. What I can predict with 100% certainty is how you feel or how you can feel during the launch. And I think that is the most important part that we should be focusing on, is how we feel during the things that light us up.
Right. Well, and that is the highest determinant of an outcome. So right. Okay. Awesome. This is really great. You're confirming a lot of the things and again, like you said, I feel like for a lot of people who are attuned, they get a lot more confirmation. But I'm open to also having things come out of left field to be like, what you just told me, like relationships, like pay attention that something might come up around this time. It just puts it in my periphery where I'm like, this is an area that I want to tend to. Like maybe my husband might make a plan to have a little bit more alone time during that time. Yeah. I really find that very useful when I can know a little bit of what to look at, in areas, or kids, because that's really important. Like if you can say, like, plus I have 3 kids, right? So there's a lot of dynamics, and because so it's like awareness is such a key factor for ease. And to have some greater awareness is just, I can just imagine how helpful it's going to be going forward for me to have this support, like, oh, this might be happening. Like, how can you prepare for it? And
exactly. Yeah. It takes out the guessing, the uncertainties, because no one wants to go around and think, maybe I should do this, or this feels okay. Maybe this doesn't feel okay. No, if you actually have like look on the calendar, think this is a really good week. Start doing this. And then also, you know,
Oh, did we lose
some
Patricia?
people, oh, I'm still
did you
here.
Freeze? Hey,
Hey.
I don't know if we're still live. Let me double check. I don't know what happened. We froze.
We are.
Yeah, okay, great. Because I just started kind of wrapping up, which we wanted to wrap up anyway. And yeah, well, I guess this was life telling us, yes, it is time. Oh yeah, I got kicked off. You were sitting there. That's hilarious.
I thought it was the other way around.
No, they're right. So I just kind of wanted to do this live so that I love supporting people doing amazing work. I think what you do is so tremendous. I'm so excited to continue working together to keep learning more about how to support myself really and my family and my business. I love that you have a focus on business because for me, business is the part that I get the most control over, I guess, and I can move things around versus a lot of other things are just the way they are, right? With other members of my family. Yeah. So I like to be able to plan in a way that feels really like thought out and considers all the things that matter to me that are happening in my life. So I'm going to put a link for how you guys can learn more about Patricia and book a session with her. I wanted to do this too because Patricia is having a special right now on her clarity sessions, which is, you got a taste of it essentially here. For what is the cost right now that you've lowered it to, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, normally it's $497, but at the moment it is $197. And I'm doing this because so many of you I know are in this space of searching for clarity, wanting to understand what their path is, what is happening for them in the next month. So I'm offering these sessions for just $197 because I just want to give you these tools, which are really practical to take control over your life and over your business.
Yeah. So these are mostly focused on entrepreneurs. Those are typically clients you work with and who want to know what's happening in their life and be able to plan it. So grab them now while they're there because it's such an amazing value. And I'm excited to learn all the hidden stuff that Patricia didn't tell you publicly. So we're signing off. I'll add a link for how you can connect with Patricia. And you guys, if you have any questions or anything, tag Patricia, ask her the questions. She'll come back to the thread and respond. And then you can dive into working with her as well.
Awesome. Thank you.